What would you do if from a young age you heard voices that wanted you to do horrible, terrible, awful things, but as time went on, it became harder and harder to resist as these thoughts became stronger until you did something awful? In today's story, we'll be talking about this and what you could do instead to make it out alive. Hello, I'm Cece. Welcome to the Crucible of Character. We have been reading lots of scary Reddit stories recently. If you like my videos, make sure to like and subscribe for more daily content, and especially more daily stories. I'm trying to hit 100 subs by the end of the year. I would love you to help me get there. Without further ado, the story. This one was posted to the r/NoSleep subreddit by Primanix, and it's entitled, I don't know what to do right now. I'm so scared. I'm scared, but writing keeps me calm. I've been hearing voices in my head since I was 6. Voices that always told me what I should do. Like, put your leg out and trip that man. Or, the driver isn't good. He's going to get into a car crash soon. And I've always complained to my parents about it. So, when I was 7, my mother brought me to a doctor. Or, at least that's what she called it. But I think they had another name for those doctors. Psychiatrists, I think. The nice lady ran some tests, asked some questions, but it took really long. I didn't know much at the time. I couldn't understand anything. I only listened to my mother when she told me to wait outside the room while she had a little chat with the doctor. She came back out a while later with an envelope in her hands. I never asked about it. I was afraid there would be something wrong with me. I always asked, Mommy, is there something wrong with me? And my mom would always smile and shake her head, assuring me that everything was fine. I was a really cheerful girl, with a decent number of friends growing up. Despite the voices, I've never really let it bother me. I've learned to shut it down over the years. My mother said I was perfectly normal, and I believed her. After all, my mother has always been right. I'm 13 now, but the voices never left. In fact, they sounded angrier, as if they didn't like being ignored. Earlier today, my parents left for a vacation to LA. I told them I'd be fine alone for a week. I had invited my best friend of 3 years over for a sleepover, with my parents' permission, of course. And the promise that we wouldn't cause any trouble. Let's call her Amy. Amy suggested that we watched a horror movie, since it was her favorite genre. I'm not really a fan of horror, but seeing her so eager, I couldn't bring myself to say no. I'll admit, the movie scared me to death. By the time it ended, Amy told me that I looked like I'd just seen a ghost. I laughed it off, though honestly, I know I'm a scaredy cat. But is it really my fault? The voices get louder when I watched anything horror-related, which was why I avoided them as best as I could. At 11 p.m., she suggested that we play a game her parents had taught her. Though, I'm not sure if parents should be teaching their kids these kinds of stuff. Charlie, Charlie. I don't know why I agreed. Perhaps it was due to the adrenaline from the movie. But for those of you who don't know how it works, you basically draw a cross on a piece of paper and label the 4 boxes yes, no, no, yes. Then, put a pencil along one line and balance the other pencil above the first one along the other line so they form a cross. To start the game, you have to ask Charlie, Charlie, are you there? And if the top pencil spins and points to yes, you can go on to ask your question, whatever you want. We shut off all the lights and closed the windows to prevent any wind from getting in. We asked twice before we got a response. We were having so much fun, not really thinking much about anything else. We asked stupid questions and laughed at every reply. But when we ended the game, we forgot to say goodbye, and I don't know if that mattered. That night, I woke up at 2 a.m. The voice in my head said, someone is watching. I looked around the dark room, the moonlight streaming in from the window, casting weird shadows on the walls, making the atmosphere even more unsettling. I turned over and shook Amy, waking her up. She stirred, groaning in frustration, opening her mouth, probably to ask why I was waking her up at 2 a.m. But before she could get a word out, I heard it. A soft thud, then another, coming from the corridor. I refused to admit it, but they sounded like footsteps. I whipped my head towards the doorway. I couldn't make out anything in the dark, Was someone in the house? The voice came again. Go check it out. I never once listened to the voice in my head, but this time I did. I looked back at Amy, who was staring at me like I had grown a second head. What? Did you hear that? Hear what? Why did you wake me up at freaking 2 in the morning? Should I tell her and freak her out too, or go check it out myself? In case I was really an idiot, being paranoid at every little sound, I chose the latter. I'll go check something out. Just wait in here. I grabbed my phone in case I needed to make an emergency call or use the flashlight before walking towards the doorway, leaving a puzzled Amy in bed. I forgot how long it took me to clear the whole house, but thankfully not a single soul in sight. I climbed back up the stairs, preparing to head back to bed. But what I saw at the doorway froze me in my tracks. A doll. No, not the kind that kids hug to bed every night. This one, 7 feet tall, maybe even taller. It has no face, just a smooth surface made of fabric. It looked like fabric. It had long black hair touching the floor, arms and legs, but no fingers or toes, just rounded limbs like a puppet. It was wearing a worn-out, dusty blue dress with what looked like burnt holes. I don't know how long I was staring at this thing, and what eventually snapped me out of my shocked state was a voice, Amy's voice, except it was coming from the doll. What's taking you so long? It spoke. I didn't reply. It said a few other things, but I didn't process any of them. All I could hear was the rapid pounding of my heart in my ears, and then it started walking towards me. I turned and ran. I didn't look back. It called my name, but this time it didn't sound like Amy. It was low-pitched, almost a growl, and it sounded angry. I didn't want to fumble with the keys to get out, so I hid in the storeroom beside the kitchen, where it couldn't see me. It was still calling my name, and it was getting closer. Just stab it in the head. It's the weakest area, the voice in my head again spoke. For once, I sat there and thought about it. It sounded doable. I was shaking like a leaf at the thought, but it was worth a shot. So, for the second time in my life, I listened to the voice in my head. I peeped out from the storeroom. The doll was still walking around the house, looking for me, calling my name. It was only a matter of time before it found me. Stop hiding. What's wrong? It spoke again. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself down, and stopped trembling. Before I knew it, I was sprinting towards the kitchen, towards the drawer where my parents kept all the knives. I pulled it open, picking up the first blade I saw. When I turned back around, the doll was staring at me, just standing there, watching, as if in shock. I didn't think, I just acted. I could still remember the adrenaline rush as I charged towards the doll, at full speed, plunging the knife straight into its head. I didn't know if it screamed, because all I could see was the crimson-red blood that I was now covered in. I screamed, pulling out the knife, watching as the now lifeless body of the doll collapsed into a heap of fabric on the ground. But it wasn't bleeding, not a single drop of blood on it. I almost broke down at what I had just experienced. I forced back my tears, running upstairs. Amy was still in bed, waiting for me. Or, that was what I thought. I reached the doorway, catching my breath. Amy, I choked out. The bed was empty. Where did she go? A horrible thought flashed through my mind. Had the doll taken her? Was that why it had her voice at the beginning? I blinked away the wetness in my eyes, running back downstairs, but I wasn't prepared for the sight that greeted me. I expected to see the doll on the ground, but the doll was nowhere to be seen. What laid in its place was Amy, her body lifeless with a pool of crimson-red blood around her head. I stood there and stared at the scene for what felt like hours before quietly walking over to pick up my phone, which I had dropped in the storeroom. And now, I'm here, in my parents' bedroom, still covered in blood. Amy's blood. I've been in here since 4 a.m. It's daytime now, but I found something. The envelope my mom brought out of the doctor's room when I was 7. Now, I know what's inside. I know what's wrong with me. My diagnosis letter. Suspected schizophrenia. Come back for another checkup after monitoring for 6 months. That was what my mother never told me. Perhaps she didn't want me to feel different from others. She thought that it would take my cheerfulness away. I had always been fine, right? My mother never took me to visit the nice lady a second time, and now there's a body downstairs. Not just anyone's body, but my best friend's, and I was the one who killed her. But now, one noticeable thing has changed. My head feels quieter, calmer, like the voice is gone. And honestly, I hope it never comes back, because if not for it, I wouldn't have done what I did. There's a dead body in my house, and I don't know what to do. I'm scared. The end. There's definitely a lot going on in this story. There's a lot of themes, a lot of things that can be learned. I think, firstly, the mom definitely should have told her. Told her that she might experience certain things. Told her that she needs to be aware of certain things. I think, especially for someone with schizophrenia, I don't have a whole lot of experience with people with schizophrenia, but I have met a few, and I understand that it can depend on severity per person, that's for sure. But there are definitely things in your life, just as the story explains, that make it worse, and there are definitely things that can make it, more manageable. With that being said, I think it's an absolutely stupid thing that the parents would not have told her, or at least tried to kind of ease her into that, because I think the worst thing that she can do is just think that she's normal and everyone's dealing with this. Because then if she lashes out or does something like this, then what? She was less than everyone else. Not only that, but I think that the way in which the story kind of finishes, it almost leans a little bit towards psychopath, a little bit, in my mind. She wasn't really sad. It was kind of just, this is what happened, and she was scared. One of the TV shows I recently finished was Dexter, and throughout the show, he experiences something similar with what he refers to as the dark passenger, this voice that urges him to kill. And after he kills, the voice is gone for a while until he has this urge that builds up again. And there's not really anything he can do about it, and if he doesn't deal with it in a productive way, then he basically loses control and does something like this. So, with this being said, I think it was all preventable. I think that if the parents would have been at least a little bit more forward with her, that would have been a great thing to do. Second thing, because, if you were in this situation, you would literally have no control over that. But the second thing I would say is, if you were to understand preemptively that scary movies were to kind of be a trigger for this voice, why the heck would you be watching scary movies? If you know you're allergic to peanuts, why would you eat the peanut butter sandwich that your friend gave you just because they were so excited, right? Like, if you know something bad is going to happen, I feel like that's not a very good friend if you don't feel like you can kind of talk to them about that and say, hey, I don't know what's going on with me, but for some reason this is going to trigger me. So please, if we could just watch something else, right? I feel like that communication isn't completely out of line. Then, kind of going one step further with the Charlie game. Why would you do that? If you know these types of things with this theme of horror or extra scary is going to set you off, why would you keep doing it? Basically, I would say the moral of the story is everyone, regardless of if you have any diagnoses at all, need to understand that your body gives you a lot of signals for what you need. Oftentimes, when you're craving a food, it's because the main ingredient of that food is something that you need. Whenever you crave salty chips, it's because you need more salt in your system. Whenever you crave sugar, well, that's because, sugar is the most addictive chemical on the earth. Whenever you crave meat, that's because you need iron, right? So, a lot of times, our body is trying to tell us what we need and we aren't listening. Or maybe we don't know how to listen. So I would say the moral of the story, and the thing that we should all apply from this is, please, take a minute to reflect on yourself and your personality. Take a moment to understand, maybe, if your body has been trying to tell you what you need. And ask yourself a question. Have you been listening? And if not, take a moment to do so. Take a moment so that something like this doesn't happen. Take a moment to ask for help. There are always people out there to help. There are, as it says in the story, counselors, doctors, people that can help. And if it's something that you figure might be better to at least start with some friends or family, just go talk to them. That's the best case scenario. So that, again, nothing like this happens. With that, I do feel like this story was preventable. I do feel like there was so many better options that could have been made. But for a 13-year-old, not a whole lot that they could have changed. A lot of it was kind of front-loaded. A lot of it was kind of rigged against them. So, what would you have done differently? If anything, please let me know down in the comments below. I really do appreciate all the support. I love the comments. I love reading them. I try to respond to all of them. And again, if you liked the video and you made it this far, please make sure to like and subscribe. It really does help me more than you know. And again, we're trying to hit 100 subscribers before the end of the year. I appreciate you all. I love you all. I'm CC.